Welcome to Third Eyesight. Do you see spirits? Do you hear things? Do you want to talk about it? I'm your host, Juan, and I'm sharing with you my experiences with spirit, as well as interviewing folks who feel comfortable sharing their experiences with spirit. Let's get to it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 7 of Third Eyesight, and we are already in December. And I just cannot believe that. This year has flown by so fast. And I know that 2020 was kind of a blur. We were figuring a lot of things out. And personally, I feel that 2021 had a lot more clarity in it for me. And I know that there are some privileges that I have in my life that help me to have access to that clarity for sure. And I hope that others felt that they had some clarity this year in whatever way that may have looked. And I really feel that my spiritual work has been such a huge part of that clarity that I've been accessing this year. I launched my first podcast episode in October, and it involved a situation, an experience that occurred in September. And I have to say that ever since I started delving into mediumship work, and tapping more into my intuition and helping others to tap into their intuition, doing some readings for other people, which I do for free. I want to disclaim that I do not do readings at a price at all. I am not a self-proclaimed medium and running my own business at all, or a tarot reader and running my own business, because I don't feel called to that. But while I am doing readings for free or doing them on Instagram Live, while I am practicing my mediumship in mediumship circles or with friends of mine and acquaintances of mine, it is really feeding into my self-esteem. Not going to lie, today is a really tough day for me in terms of my self-esteem. I'm having a difficult day, and I have my days. They come and go. Some days I feel on top of the world and feel good about myself, and some days I don't. And I'm learning to be a little bit more gentle with myself and patient with myself. And also letting myself, if I want to have a scream in the woods by myself kind of day, which I don't have access to woods where I live in New York City, but if I did, I would scream in it. But if I feel like screaming in my head, like, I feel like crap today, that's okay. I need to accept that that's okay, as long as I am doing no harm to myself or others around me. Anyway, I need to cope with what I'm going through, it's okay. So that aside, after that quick check-in with myself and with you listening, I first want to say that if you really enjoy this podcast and you feel like you're getting something out of it, and you want to help spread the good vibes or the message that you feel this podcast has given to you, feel free to follow wherever you listen to this podcast or to subscribe. And by doing that, you will help it to reach other people who might want to listen to this message as well. And also feel free to share this podcast with your friends and your family and your colleagues who you feel would be interested in this topic. And also feel free to leave a review for my podcast. I know that on Apple Podcasts that is possible. And I'm saying all of this because my main mission with this podcast is to help other people feel that there's more to life than what meets the five senses, as I said at the beginning of this podcast series. I am not making money off of this. I don't have sponsors. I am not charging for readings. I have my day job and I have this. I feel like the experiences that I've had in my life and in this past year make me feel like I need to share that I've had these experiences and let others know that they can access those kinds of experiences as well. I want to bring people closer to the source of the universe that they feel or have an inkling that they come from. Or maybe they're not open to it. And maybe they're not open to the idea of source or God or the universe, but they're open to listening to a podcast that discusses it. Whatever it is. And this is not to convert anybody. It's not to bring anyone to quote unquote the light. It's about just sharing my experiences so other people feel comfortable sharing their own, or they feel comfortable seeking out their own experiences. That's all this podcast is for. And that's the only message that I want to come across from this podcast. And I want to share that message with as many people as possible. I feel good sharing the message, and I hope that you listening feel good receiving it. And I hope it gives you hope. And I want to spread that hope to other people. I really, really do. So if you feel compelled to, share it, review the podcast, do whatever it is you want to do to help this podcast gain some reach. So today I want to focus on an experience I had 2 years ago in an apartment that I lived in North Manhattan. So I used to live in Inwood, which is just above Washington Heights in Manhattan. Inwood takes up the northernmost tip of Manhattan. And I believe, and this is controversial in terms of the geographic boundaries of Inwood, but I believe it's like 190th Street and north in Manhattan. The first night I moved into this apartment in that neighborhood, I had an uneasy feeling. Not something evil or, I just felt like there was something whose property I was trespassing. So I staged my apartment and I slept soundly that first night, and I never again felt that feeling. Fast forward a year and a half to 2 years. I am in my apartment with my dog, Sella, and I noticed her staring at something in the kitchen, staring at the floor. Now, I discovered later that I had a mouse problem. So it's possible she was staring at a mouse. But the thing is, the lights were on and she was staring at the spot on the floor for like 2-3 minutes. There was no mouse. I looked and she was staring at the floor and there was no mouse there. I don't know. But the thing is, I recorded it. I filmed her staring at the floor. And I still have the video, and there's nothing there. So I thought, okay, maybe she's looking at a ghost. I don't know. So I'm mentioning that because it's possible. Maybe it was a mouse. Maybe it was the ghost in my apartment. I don't know. But the thing is, within a short amount of time after that, I believe it was shortly after, I was in my apartment. I was washing the dishes. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw this black swoosh go up by my refrigerator. And I remember now, I forgot about this, but now I'm remembering, I heard like a knock on my wall, as if like it came from the neighbor next door. But it was weird that this knock happened at the same time I saw this black swoosh of a thing at the corner of my eye. And I thought, I've had interesting experiences in this building, whether it was through my dog or on my own. Let me look up the history of my neighborhood. So I did. And there was a wonderful website. And actually, you're going to hear me browse for it now because I forgot the URL. I think it's called my-or-dash-inwood. No, it is no dash, no hyphen. It is myinwood.net. myinwood.net. Now back to my recording screen. So myinwood.net is a wonderful website that is run by Cole Thompson, who I believe is he is like our local historian of Inwood. He's just so invested in Inwood history, and he blogs about it. So I found my apartment building on his website, on his blog, and I learned some history about the area that I lived in. And I discovered that in my area, actually across the street from me, is the site of what used to be a burial ground for enslaved people. And across the street from that, under the 1 train in the area, there used to be a Dutch colonial cemetery. Now, the colonial cemetery for the Dutch folks was moved to, I believe there was a memorial done for them at Woodlawn Cemetery, and some remains were transferred over there. I forget exactly how that was handled. But the remains of the enslaved people in the burial grounds that I first mentioned, they were desecrated. And there's photographic evidence of that. And it's a horrible, horrible part of New York City history. So I thought, how interesting that I had these little experiences, and this black swoosh, I believe it was the same night that I saw the black swoosh, I researched my building and my neighborhood, and I found that bit of history. So that burial ground is located where today exists a mechanic shop. And that mechanic shop is located right next to a public school. This is on 212th Street and 10th Avenue. So that is what exists there today. What's interesting is a year from the date, not exactly a year, but a year, give or take, from the date that I discovered this information about my neighborhood and that burial ground, I ended up volunteering for a local museum that is actually working on bringing awareness to this burial ground and creating a memorial plaque with the school to commemorate that burial site, that sacred ground. And I'm so happy I got the opportunity to be a part of that effort in some way from like a PR standpoint. That's my industry, is public relations. So how funny that I discovered this about my neighborhood after having what I consider was a supernatural experience in my kitchen. And then it leads me, somehow I'm led to do this work with this local museum on this burial ground. Like it was, I didn't do it intentionally. I did not pursue that work intentionally. It just happened to land in my lap, and I was so pleased and so excited to work on it. I thought, wow, what are the odds? So it's almost like my life led me towards that opportunity to work on some PR regarding this burial ground and how important it is to learn that this used to exist there, and we need to commemorate the folks who were buried there. So today's episode is a short one, very, very short one. And all I want you to get out of this episode is, if you feel something is different about your home or your neighborhood, or you feel the energy is different than places you've lived in before, or you notice things happening in your neighborhood or in your home that are out of the ordinary, research your home, research your neighborhood. I wouldn't be too quick to conclude that it's something evil or like demonic, or it's something that's possessing your home, because it may just be a friendly spirit that just wants to be in the space where it used to live, just wants to hang out, and remnants of its energy are left there, or it is actively in the home. And if it's something that is pestering you or annoying you or bothering you, or it's concerning, then do what you need to do to make sure your home is cleansed. But otherwise, if it's just a presence, in my apartment, I just felt a presence, but I wasn't afraid of it. I just didn't feel afraid. And I felt like, if there's someone here, you're free to live here, but please don't bother me. Don't scare my dog. Last thing I need is a scared dog, a scared rescue dog. That's the last thing I need. Last thing that my dog needs is to be afraid or feel afraid in the home that we live in. So I encourage you, research your neighborhood, research your home, research your workplace, wherever it is that you are, that you feel things are happening that are out of the ordinary. Do some research. It's kind of fun. And also, by doing the research, you can then identify or recognize the soul that is making its presence known. And it makes it that much more powerful, because you have that connection with the soul, that it's possible, maybe not definitive, but it's possible biography or possible context of its existence when it was in the physical world, or its reason for sticking around. You may find that out. So that is all I have for you today. Like I said, it's a short one. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. If you're just waking up somewhere on the planet, I hope you have a beautiful start to your day. And I'll see you next time on episode 8 of Third Eyesight. Have a great one.